Hello and welcome back to the latest edition of the Morning Bulletin here on the Blood Red channel. I'm your host, Edward Kay. Joining me today is Thomas Beattie, and we've got a few transfer things to be going over, both incomings and outgoings. We'll start with the Mason Mount news. Mauricio Pocchetino reportedly set to recommend that Chelsea offer him a new contract. Obviously, they've offered him a fair few contracts so far, and there seems to be quite a big gap between their valuations of how much Mason Mount is worth and how much Mason Mount thinks he's worth per week. To be honest, as soon as they got Frank Lampard in, I started to... I'm not as warm on the Mason Mount rumours as I once was, because obviously the link he's got with Mason Mount, having had him at Derby, I thought he might just try and convince him to stay. Obviously, with Mauricio Pocchetino now coming in and wanting him, do you think that's a sign that Mason Mount could end up staying as a Chelsea player this summer?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think that Chelsea still kind of hold all the cards in a way, I reckon. Certainly because of sort of the tie that Mason Mount has to the club as well, coming through as an academy product. He's a real asset to that squad, I think. And, if they can get him back playing, we all know the kind of player he can be. Obviously, this season's been a bit of a write-off for him and for the club. And like you say, I kind of felt the same. I think when Lampard went in after Graham Potter, I did kind of feel like maybe, it was going to become a bit more difficult for Liverpool to get him ultimately. And we're all aware of how big a fan Lampard is of Mason Mount. And obviously he's not going to get the permanent job. It looks like Pochettino's going to go in, like you say. And yeah, if he's keen on him, you'd imagine they're in pole position to keep him, really. But yeah, he would have really fit the bill for Liverpool, so it's a little bit of a blow. But I'm a bit like yourself in the sense that we probably had about a month now to kind of prepare for that, in a sense, because, we all know, what a big fan Lampard is of Mason Mount, and possibly he's had a word in the ear of the owner to say that, you've kind of got to get him signed up, essentially. So yeah, it's a bit of a blow for Liverpool, I think, that one.
Yeah, I do think it would have just been... I mean, it could still happen, but I think it would just be a bit of a shocking transfer all round, to be honest. I know Chelsea are a club where they're willing to let managers go, players go, but to let an academy prospect like Mason Mount leave in such fashion, having already won a Champions League with them, I think that would have been a bit ridiculous. I think a lot of Chelsea fans would have been quite rightly fuming at that one. Supposedly, Pochettino also wants to keep hold of Conor Gallagher, who we've also been linked with. Obviously, two homegrown talents, which it is important to have in your squad in the Premier League. And obviously, Chelsea they've got about 30 odd players in that squad, haven't they? So they're going to have to trim the fat somewhere. But it's looking like Liverpool probably aren't going to be able to get one of their midfielders in. So we'll move on to another midfield target of the Reds, one that was in action last night, Nicolo Barella. I mean, fortunately for him, probably unfortunately for Liverpool and anybody who wants to sign him from Inter Milan, they've now made it into the Champions League final, where they'll face the winner of tonight's second leg, Manchester City against Real Madrid at the Etihad. I mean, a standout performance again from him last night. He just seems to have an endless engine. And obviously, them making it this far into the competition is only going to make it harder for anyone to sign him, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's already got such pedigree anyway. Obviously, he's won the Euros, and I think he's won the Serie A title a few years ago with Inter as well. Yeah, so, he's got that experience, and also, like you say, I mean, he combines that with a lot of quality and this kind of endless energy from midfield, which, if you watch Liverpool this season, we've kind of lacked that at times, I think. And, if you were to kind of just transplant him into our side, you'd imagine we would have been back up there. And I think a lot of Liverpool fans will kind of share that view as well. But like you say, if they do make it, if they do end up even winning the Champions League, obviously they made the final now. You'd imagine that could even make it impossible for Liverpool to sign him this summer, unless, of course, he really wants a new challenge. And that's kind of what I'm hoping, kind of holding out for a little bit now. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of Liverpool supporters, they'd probably rather him to beat Man City if they make it there, I think. But that would mean possibly that we don't get Barella. But yeah, it's kind of that thing at the moment, really, where there's that many factors, isn't there, with every player, a bit like Mason Mount, who we've mentioned, where it's just so hard to predict at the moment. And, you know, if there is availability from his side, you're hoping that we've kind of got the ball rolling on business a little bit early, and we can kind of take advantage of that. But yeah, it is going to make it more difficult, I think, you know, them getting to the final. And obviously, if they win it, I wouldn't see him moving, to be honest. But stranger things have happened.
Yeah, well, as you say, I mean, Kante left Leicester after he won the league and then won it with Chelsea, didn't he? So it's not necessarily a bad thing to be leaving a club after they've won something. But yeah, I think it would be very difficult to pry him away from Inter. I think it will be now anyway, but I think if they win it, it will be just about impossible. I mean, would he even want to leave after that? Who knows, really? But we'll move on to final bit of news we've got to discuss today. James Milner is attracting plenty of suitors from across the Premier League. Brighton were the big rumour recently, but now apparently Leeds joining the race. You'd assume that's based on them surviving in the Premier League. I'm not sure he'd take the jump down to the Championship when there is a few Premier League clubs in for him. But let's say Leeds do stay up. Brighton are obviously the more attractive footballing prospect at the moment. But do you think nostalgia could get the better of him? He obviously began his career in 2002 with Leeds. So do you think a move back there might tempt him?
It's funny with Milner. I think even though he really loves Liverpool, you can tell that, and you know it's kind of he's got that connection, and he said that you know it's kind of equal in his heart now to Leeds, but he has always come out and said that he is a Leeds fan, so it is a strange kind of situation in a sense, and famously, like you say, he did come through with the Leeds Academy and started his career there. But I also don't think he's kind of the romantic style of player in a sense. And I think he'll go wherever is kind of the best club in terms of the best opportunity to kind of maximise, the level he's playing at, essentially, I think in the latter couple of years of his career. So I think, it's a difficult one, really, because I think in one sense, on paper, I think a move to Leeds, if they were to stay up, it would make a lot of sense in terms of the romantic side. But I just don't think James Milner's that kind of person. And I think that he would make almost a clinical decision, I'd imagine. And it does kind of look that way with Brighton, because obviously I think Burnley were mentioned as possibly having made an offer for Milner late on. Even Everton got a mention as well. And I kind of thought before anything came out about Milner, he'd want to stay in the Northwest, or at least in the North. I don't think he's ever played outside the North other than the Midlands with Aston Villa. So yeah, moving down to Brighton would be a big move. Obviously, he's got a family and stuff. And yeah, possibly if, like the report says, that they're open to hijacking the move, it could plant a bit of a seed of doubt in his mind, I think, because we all know that he does have that massive tie with Leeds. So, that maybe the opportunity to bring his family back there after nearly over 20 years, I think, since he left. I mean, it's it's possible, I think. And it's just whether he kind of makes more of a career decision over, head over heart, essentially. So I think that's what it'll come down to in the end.
Yeah, Brighton, as you say, a bit of a trek from the north. But I have to say, at the start of this season, I was nailed on Milner does one more year, and then I thought he would go to Leeds. But then obviously they've dropped into the relegation battle. If they go down, I don't think he will. So I think in my opinion, I think he'll probably end up at Brighton, because I think Leeds will go down. But I mean, there's an argument. Obviously, there's plenty of suitors for him, and he's been used plenty of times this year. Was there an argument that he maybe could have done another year at Liverpool?
I think there was definitely an argument. I think when you've got a player who's that reliable, obviously he is 37, but he's always kind of defied his age, in a sense. He's always been useful for Jurgen Klopp because he can fill a couple of positions as well. Obviously, he's filled in at right back at times as well as in midfield, even at left back a few years ago. So he is that kind of player who I really believe could play, multiple positions, and that's probably why a club like Brighton, even in the position they're in, are really interested in taking him, because he is just so useful. And I'm a bit like yourself. I think at the start of the season, I was thinking, okay, he might do 1 year with us and then go back to Leeds. But I'm of the opinion that, every time he's played this season, I think other than the United game at the start of the season, he's actually played really well, to be fair to him. And yeah, it might just be a case of, he wants to, for his final couple of years, kind of play regularly. And I kind of don't begrudge him that after, I think it must be, 9 years now at Liverpool. So, yeah, I sort of don't begrudge him wanting to sort of play regularly for his last couple of years of his career and really maximise that. But I would love to see him come back in maybe a coaching capacity at some stage, because I think what we're going to lose kind of off the pitch might be the massive one as well. He's one of them main components in the dressing room for Jurgen Klopp, and he said that multiple times. The manager, obviously, him, Henderson, Van Dijk, players like that, Robertson, they've been massive in setting that kind of winning culture at Liverpool. So yeah, he'll be a massive miss for Liverpool, I think, when he does eventually go. And hopefully that there's players in the group who are going to step up. I know that obviously Trent is still young, but we all know that he's kind of part of that leadership group that Klopp talks about. So I'd imagine he could be someone who kind of steps up as someone who's a little bit of a disciplinarian and kind of, setting the standards in the squad with the likes of Henderson and Van Dijk. So yeah, it's big shoes to fill, I think, at Liverpool, and I think he'll be missed more than people might think.
Yeah, as you say, he's the definition of a culture setter at a club, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's why he'd be such a good signing for Brighton, and I suspect Adam Lallana's got his fingerprints all over that one, telling everyone at Brighton just how much of a culture setter he is and how good of a signing he'd be. But that is all we've got time for here on the Morning Bulletin today. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow, but until then, it's thanks from me and Thomas, and we'll see you next time.